In this video, we're going to be learning how to make this trifold brochure in Scribus. The layout will be structured as two separate pages with three sequential interior and exterior panels. This is the exterior page, and this is the interior page. I'm going to go over each and show you how to put them together step by step. If you would like to know more about a specific feature of Scribus, be sure to check out our Getting Started with Scribus series. So let's get started.
Welcome to class.
The first thing you will need to do once Scribus is running is to create your new document layout. So, from the new document wizard, we will select single page, set the size to letter, orientation to landscape, set the default unit of measure to millimeters. Keep in mind that for documents as small as brochures, it's not recommended you use a unit of measure as large as inches, as you'll likely need more control over the layout. Ultimately, you'll want to set it to something that you're comfortable with and provide you with the results you're looking for. We will set the margins and bleed to 0. We will be setting the number of pages to 2. Then select OK. When you're beginning, it may be a good idea to use the grid system or add guides. To add user-defined guides, you can right-click on one of the pages and check the box Manage Guides. From the Guide Manager, we'll select the Column Row tab and input the number of horizontal and vertical guides we want. We'll set the number of vertical guides to 2, splitting each page into 3 columns, and then select Apply to all pages. Now that our document is set up and we've added our grids and guides, let's move on to our next step, layers. For this publication, we'll be creating a total of 3 layers. From the Layers panel, we'll select the plus button 2 times to create our new layers and rename them. Our topmost layer will be called Content, followed by Accents, followed by the default Background. Our content layer will be used to hold our text content, and everything in this layer will sit on top of everything below it. Our accent layer will hold any layout or design elements as needed. And our background layer will sit at the bottom and hold any images. These 3 layers will be our guidelines for now, and we can start on any layer and move elements from one layer to another, or create more layers if we need them. Our document should now be fully set up. For this layout, we will start by adding a rectangle shape to our document. We can do this by selecting the rectangle option from the Shape Tool option in the standard menu, or if rectangle is already selected, we can use our keyboard shortcut by pressing S on the keyboard and then double-clicking our mouse anywhere on the canvas or clicking and dragging the shape to the desired size. For the width, we'll make sure our rectangle reaches both sides of our page, and for the height, we'll have our rectangle about 2/3 of the page height. Next, we'll make it a little more stylish by double-clicking on the shape to open the Node panel. From here, select the Add Node button, then click on the top edge of our rectangle to add a control node somewhere close to the middle of the page. Then from the node's control panel, select the Move Control Points button. Going back to the node we just added to our rectangle, we will click and drag the control points from our node to create a curved look. The control point can be moved in 2 directions, so we'll pull one up and one down. There's no right or wrong when doing this, so try it until you're comfortable with the results. When we're happy with the results, we'll duplicate our shape by pressing Ctrl or Command and the letter D on our keyboard. Using the mouse, we'll reduce the height of our topmost shape, like so. Then, from the Align and Distribute panel, we'll center our shapes and align them to the bottom of our page. Next will be to make our newly created shapes really stand out. Jumping over to the Properties panel, Color section, select the Stroke tab and set the color to None. Then, on the Fill tab, change the fill mode from Solid to Gradient. Change the gradient type from linear to 4 colors. We'll set the colors in the following sequence, leaving the shade and transparency at 100%. The sequence is cyan, black, blue, black. We'll perform the same steps on our smaller shape, setting the stroke to none and fill mode to gradient. But this time, the first of our 4 colors will be blue and the third will be cyan, making the sequence blue, black, cyan, black. While we have the Properties panel up, we'll navigate up to the Drop Shadow section and select the Has Drop Shadow checkbox. We'll set the X offset to 0 and Y offset to -3 mm so that the shape casts a shadow upwards. We'll then set the blur to 1.764 mm to give it a soft edge so that it is visible but doesn't stand out too much. We'll do this for both of our shapes. The shapes we have now should be enough for our primary design element. However, we will be adding 2 more elements as flourishes to break up the page layout. For the first one, we'll create a very thin triangle and move it to the bottom right side of the page. This will be used to visually split the content that will go on the exterior cover panel. The second element will be a simple rectangle placed on the top left of our page. Like our primary shapes, we'll use a 4-color gradient following a red-black sequence, which we can also apply to our triangle we just added as well. Before we move on to our next step, you may have noticed that we're on our lowest layer or background layer. This is not where we want our current design elements. So we will select all of our elements on the page, right-click on our selection, and then select Send to Layer, and then select Accents. Then we'll select our background as our active layer and start adding images. Using the Tools shortcut menu or pressing I on the keyboard and clicking on the canvas, we can create an image frame. We'll place this image on the top right corner of the page, making sure the frame extends past our primary shape. Then right-click on the frame, select Content, get Image, and navigate to the image you would like to use for your design and select OK. Now, from the Image's Content Properties control panel, we can toggle between 2 frame size and free scaling, and adjust the XY scaling to get the image to fit where we want it. We'll then follow the same process again to place an image on the top right corner of the page. Once this is done, we can move on to placing content on our first page. Let's switch to our content layer so that all of our text appears on the top of our design elements. Then add a text frame to our document by selecting the text frame from the Tools menu and clicking and dragging on the canvas. We'll go ahead and put our document or theme title in this frame and jump over to the text frame content properties control panel to set our font styles. For this document, we will use the properties control panel to set the text frame background color to a linear gradient with a blue base color that transitions into a transparent color selection flowing from the bottom to the top of the page. Another key element we will be adding to our document is a logo. Now I've created a simple logo that I'll be adding just above our title text frame. Selecting the text frame and logo, we can use the Align and Distribute panel to center our logo. We will then add a few more text frames to each of our panels, working from right to left, or front cover, back cover, followed by interior fold. Using the text frame content control panel, under the columns and distances section, we will set the top and bottom to 2 mm and left and right will be set to 5 mm. This will ensure we're not putting our text content too close to the fold seams or edges of our document. Depending on the layout you're looking for, you can split the content of your frames into multiple columns or use the paragraph effects section to change the content into a list or even apply drop cap styling. For the final element on this page, we'll be adding a QR code. We can do this from the standard menu by selecting Insert and Barcode. Then from the Insert Barcode panel, we'll set the barcode family to 2-dimensional symbols, set the barcode to QR code, and we'll set the contents property to a web page URL we want readers to navigate to when scanning the barcode. Then we'll select OK and click on the canvas to add our barcode. We'll be placing our barcode in the center of the large white section of our back cover panel. Then we'll align it with our page and title text frame. And that's about it for our exterior panels. Let's move on to our interior panels. For this page, we're going to be borrowing the primary design element from our first page. To do this, we'll need to switch back to our accents layer. Then select the primary design elements from our first page and press Ctrl or Command D on the keyboard to duplicate the shape frames. We can then drag them down into our second page. Now, there's no reason not to make an interior and exterior page designs identical, but we'll be trying something a little different. Instead of aligning the design on the page, let's rotate the shapes by pressing the letter R on the keyboard and clicking and dragging the shape. Then we'll drag the shape off the corner of the page. Not entirely, just enough so that it's hanging off the edge. Then we'll create another rectangle and align it off the page and ensure it's large enough that it covers the content of our primary design element that's not currently on the page. Then we'll select one of our primary shapes and the rectangle at the same time. Then from the standard menu, select Item, Path Tools, Path Operations, followed by the Subtract Shape operation and select OK. We'll do this for both the primary design shapes on both sides of the page where the design reaches beyond the edge of the page. We'll do this whole process one more time. We'll go to our first page, duplicate our primary design shapes, drag them onto our second page, press the letter R on the keyboard, and this time we'll rotate the design upside down and place it in the top right corner of the page, followed by adding rectangles aligned off the page. And once again, we will select the rectangle off the page and one of our primary design shapes, and then from the standard menu, select Item, Path Tools, Path Operations, followed by the Subtract Shape operation, and select OK. Now we'll add another shape to our design. So from the Tool Shortcut menu, click and hold the mouse button down on the Shape tool icon until the context menu opens. Then select Default Shapes and select the right-facing semicircle. We'll move this shape to the open area on the right edge of the page. From the Properties Control Panel Color section, we'll remove the stroke by setting the color to None and setting the fill to a 4-color gradient as we did before, following the pattern of blue-black, cyan-black. Then, like our primary design elements, we will duplicate the shape by pressing Ctrl or Command D on the keyboard and making the topmost shape a little smaller so that the bottom shape can be seen. We will then select both shapes and move them behind our primary shapes by right-clicking and selecting Level, Lower to Bottom. With the top shape selected, we'll jump to the Content Control Panel Color section again and select the Stroke tab and change the stroke mode to Gradient. We will then double-click on the color bar and add color nodes. We will set the far left node to transparent or no color, and nodes between the left and right node to white or black. The reason for doing this is just to make this panel section stand out a little more. Finally, for our primary design elements, we'll modify the drop shadow properties so that the direction of the shadow is correct for their current rotated location. The next task will be to go back up to our first page and copy our red accent elements and paste them onto our second page. Next up, we will switch to our background layer and add a single image to the page that will cover both the center and right interior panels. Like before, we can use the Image Properties Control Panel to align and move our image until we get it where we like it. And finally, we'll move to our content layer. For the purposes of consistency, we'll once again copy text frames from our first page and paste them onto our second in the locations where we want them. This will ensure text styles, distances, and alignment remain consistent without having to manually set all of these properties of each text frame. The semicircle will have a little more styling applied than our other frames. For the frame on the left interior panel with the semicircle, we will be increasing the font size significantly and making the content a percentage. Nothing incredibly significant, but just very eye-catching. In the space below the percentage, we will create a simple bulleted list. And that's about it, everyone. I encourage you to follow along with this video and watch it as many times as you like or need to. And for those that don't already know, you can use the settings menu to speed the video up or slow it down as needed. Be sure to try some things on your own and feel free to let us know what you're working on in the comments section. In this video, we discussed how to create a trifold brochure in Scribus. If this video helped you or you would like to have us cover a specific topic in Scribus, let us know in the comments section. See you in the next one.